wars. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another exciting episode of the Vinny Eastwood Show, broadcasting live on Ground Zero Radio, and my very special guests that are joining us today, and it is also on the date, I guess, is Stefan Versteppen, the kind of like a Scandinavian hammer of Thor wielder when it comes to getting around the system and fighting the chinks in the armor and whatnot. And like Thor, he keeps it low-key. And we also have Mike in the Night, who is about as close to a comic-accurate Canadian Wolverine as you can get in the alternative media sphere. And I want to thank you very much for coming on the show with us today. So we're having this discussion before the show and having a lot of technical issues. That's why we may be a little bit late for those of you who are listening live. But anyway, stuff is going wrong everywhere for everyone. Like, honestly, I can't bump into a single freaking person without them loading me with all of their baggage and all the terrible things that are happening in their lives and what everything is doing to them. And these are the signs of the collapse. And I thought, what an interesting topic to have with you two guys. What can we point at and look at in our current goings-on in society as signs of a societal implosion, that things are going down, they're not getting better, and what is the new reality that people need to accept? What are the blinders that we've got on that need removed? What are the rose-coloured glasses that we have that need removed? And conversely, what hope should we actually continue to cling to that will sustain us through this dark time? I think that's about as good a discussion point as any to head off. Stefan, thank you so much for joining us today. Mike, love you guys. Love you very much. Come in here at late notice. Stefan, I'd like to start with you. What are the signs that we're currently in the middle of a societal implosion, and what, if any, hopes can we hold that might sustain us?
Well, first of all, there is no hope. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, it's the classic signs of societal decay. In my essay that was published in Gerald Salente's The Trans Journal, called "Historical Cycles: Are We Doomed to Repeat the Past?" I wrote about the summarization of all the theories of historical cycles.
One second here. Mike, do you want to mute your mic? Oh, sorry. Mike, do you want to mute your microphone as well as me? And maybe that'll help Stefan's signal get through a bit clearer.
No, I told you, it's the goddamn Skype. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, no, it's the goddamn Skype. So in the essay I wrote that what happens during the age of chaos, the age of decline, is that everything breaks down. It breaks down because of corruption. The infrastructure is no longer maintained because the government steals the money to support the infrastructure. So you can expect potholes. You can expect bridges to close.
No, that's just not working for us. Or Stefan, unfortunately, yeah, that's a huge Skype issue. So we're going to have to get you on another show in order to get you through a different platform that doesn't have these issues. But
I'm sorry. This is Skype. I've tried to fix it. I don't know what to do. I've written emails to Skype. Anyways,
it is.
You guys have a good show. I'll bow out.
Thanks, Stefan. Thank you so much for your time. And
No problem. Next time, Vinny. I'm sorry. I forgot about the Skype issue.
just to summarize what you were saying just before you go, Stefan was saying that during cycles of collapse that there is a lot of corruption. Like, let's say you wanted to get a loaf of bread, but that loaf of bread was worth maybe $1, but you had to offer at least 3 to 4 times that amount in bribes so that you could get access to the bread in order to then purchase it, right? In terms of societal efficiency, in terms of economic growth and things of that nature, corruption plays a part in every single thing that is on the market for sale. You know, if you want to grow crops, you've got to pay a bribe. If you want to ship those crops, you've got to pay a bribe. If you want to retail those crops, you've got to pay a bribe. And so thus, everything becomes not only crappier, but harder to get. And indeed, the mechanism by which people actually create things, you know, skills, creation, trade, it's almost like you're trying to box, but you've got 20-kilo weights on your hands. You can't move very fast. You can't do things. That's basically what corruption is doing at a societal level in general right now, because of the levels of corruption that we're consistently dealing with throughout all government departments and things of that nature, which can be affected by a little bit of bribery. Is that roundabout what you're trying to say here, Stefan?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Also, Mike, are you Canadian?
You'll have to unmute there, Mike.
Muted. Unmute Mike.
Unmute the mic, Mike, so we can get that.
I'm a Portuguese Canadian living in Canada.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, nice to meet you, Mike. I haven't seen you before.
Well, pleasure to meet you too.
I'll bow out because, well, this is what happens, you know. And listen, don't forget, 4 generations of dumbing down students, schools. So what's going to happen after 4 generations of people getting dumber and dumber? Is there anyone left that's confident to do their job? You know, so you add all that up, and now we get technical problems. Anyways, I better go, guys.
All right. Cheers, Stefan.
And nice meeting you all. Sorry, next time, okay?
Indeed. Thanks, man. So what he was trying to say there is that in terms of successive generations of getting dumbed down, you know, communist training in schools and basically, let's say, for instance, there was an intellectual element to previous broadcast television like BBC or something like that. Like, you had to be reasonably intelligent in order to be able to figure out what it's saying and what it's doing. But if you dumb down that entertainment and you make it, like, quote-unquote, more accessible, what it does is it doesn't really challenge the mind any, and becomes remarkably popular as a result because it doesn't challenge the mind. And thus, kind of like how muscles atrophy when they're not used, the general intelligence of the population seems to be atrophying. Now, that is a bad thing enough, but when you think about what is the intelligence level that is required to be a plumber, an electrician, a builder, or a statesman, for instance, and now you have people who are not as intelligent, not as capable, not as skilled, performing these key roles in society for which the rest of society functions within. People live in the homes that builders build and electricians wire and plumbers plumb, okay? And if all of those people within just those trades alone are incompetent and foolish already, what's it going to be like in next generation? Like, is the power going to go off and there won't be anybody smart enough around to come and turn it back on? Are we going to be in like a dark age in slow motion? This is some of the work of Professor Ed Dutton, the Jolly Heretic, was talking about. That if you are, for instance, an intelligent person, you need to be concerned about having as much unprotected sex and having as many children as you can possibly take care of. That's if you're reasonably intelligent. The reason why is, as I said before, one day the electricity is going to go off and there won't be anybody smart enough to figure out how to turn it back on. So with that being said, Stefan, thank you very much. You can actually just sit through this one. I will go to Mike now. Mike, what do you reckon of the signs?
I better head out. But Vinny, you covered everything I was going to say anyways. Thank you. Thank you. Good night, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, brother. Thank you so much. Mike, what do you reckon of the signs that we're currently in a state of societal implosion, and what hope is there that we can cling on to that can nourish us?
Well, this is basically going back to the blueprint of my channel from day one. It's who's going to maintain the infrastructure when things start to fall apart. And the answer to that, to governments, would be to federalize everything. The transport, they want to federalize absolutely anything they can get their hands on. And that is something even grocery stores will become federalized. They're going to push for federalization and multiple layers of government. And if you want a good idea of how, like a good synopsis of it, look at Illinois. The state of Illinois now has 5 layers of government. 5. So they have 5 layers of government that basically answer up to each other and creating more bureaucracy and red tape and making things impossible. And we even made a prediction on Mike and the Knights that you're going to start to see federalized food stores. Now, Johnson there, the mayor of Chicago, went ahead and started federalized food stores owned by governments. They have 2 of them now. So that's how they're going to start. They're going to start coming for the food. They're going to start coming for many other things, right? So I just wanted to put that out there. And going back to your first question that you asked, you were about where we at? Where do we see things? Well, we got this massive economic unrest, and we saw this with governments deregulating our banking system and changing central bank policies in favor for them to destroy us, basically, and they could get away with tyranny. Then you have your housing market crisis, which we've been reporting on for over 15 years, and the money laundering and the fentanyl and the Chinese gangs, like a broken record for years and years, and now it's starting to surface now. It's becoming something. People are starting to take note of these artificial shortages and why they can't afford real estate. And it's happening in your country, in New Zealand. It's happened in Australia and the UK and the blue states of America and Canada, where they've been economically taken over by money laundering, right? And then you got global protests and strikes all over the world. You got geopolitical tensions and ongoing conflicts and all these bizarro escalations. And you got your digital censorship and going hard with free censoring free speech at a full force. You got they're trying to market your energy and food shortages and try to create that fear tactic. You have AI automation. I mean, it doesn't end, Vinny. It's just nonstop. It's nonstop. And they're hitting at us at all angles right now.
At all angles, at all times, right? We had this idea that they... I don't know, maybe that I'm thinking of the wrong term, asymmetric warfare, but it's more along the lines of full spectrum dominance, right? Like light, for example, exists on a spectrum of visible light that we can see, infrared up to ultraviolet, and in between there's all these spectrums of light, and it's almost as if they are trying to control all those spectrums of light so that all of us live in a perpetual darkness.
That's a fantastic way to put it. That's an amazing way to put it. And inflation's rising, and you're seeing what's happening in the UK, and they're saying conservatively it's going to increase roughly to 2.8%. It's going to go up. Then you got massive issues in South Sudan, where they've been struggling with currency inflation and depreciation of their currency, and it's in the last year alone, it's lost 95 points. It just now you got the whole Trump moving in and trying to bring sanity back to America, right? He's trying to bring that kind of sanity-ish, try to start outlawing certain things and starting to fix its country. And a few days ago, he announced that he's going to scrap the Federal Reserve Act from 1913. And President Woodrow Wilson brought in the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, basically to tax Americans. But before that, before the Federal Reserve Act was put into place, we had the Great American Tariff Wall. And the Great American Tariff Wall started in the late 1800s up until pretty much 1912. And basically, tariffs were being charged for people that, or countries that wanted to import stuff into the United States. So what they did was they actually had to hire an agency in that time to figure out what to do with all the money it was making from its tariffs. Because a lot of people forget that 1 out of 3 things in the late 1800s into the first turn of the century, that a lot of things, 1 in 3 things were made in America, right? So America kept its domestic and protected its domestic product by keeping the jobs in-house. And that's why they had this tariff wall. And this tariff wall was brilliant because it actually enriched American citizens.
Sounds like an idea. But the question is, in terms of what is going on with the collapse of society, and again, talking about the full spectrum here, it's across the board in every single sector you could conceivably think of, you know. Mm-hmm. Are you in construction? Are you in politics? Are you in medicine? Are you in law? Are you in entertainment? That you're all being affected by this. And I think it's a subsequent knock-on effect. I remember some guy was talking about pipelines, and there's like bubbles in the pipes of empty air, and we're talking about international shipping here during the lockdown years. So there would be a shockwave eventually when that bubble comes through and down the pipeline, and now we are starting to feel the effects of it, and the effects have only really just begun. And of course, it's that crisis that they've created which will force people to accept the solutions that they're offering. Oh, you can't afford anything? Don't worry, we'll pay for everything. Only one catch. We also get to tell you what to do all the time, right, and surveil you, and you won't be able to own anything or have any privacy or any human rights, but you'll feel real safe.
Mm-hmm. Taking away some freedoms, taking away some of your freedoms for more government protection is the oldest trick in the book, and it's very dangerous. And it's like that attitude, well, I got nothing to hide. They could check on me. They could find out what they want about me. I got nothing to hide. No, it's called your privacy. It's your dignity. And that's this. If you want to go deep on this, Vinny, I mean, they are going at us on every, like you said, the spectrum. The spectrum is wide. It's almost creating a massive state of confusion. If anyone's awake that's actually trying to put this into some sort of mathematical sequence to make sure to figure out, okay, 2 + 2 is 4, and then putting this all together and getting what's happening in the Middle East, getting these wars in the war in the Ukraine, and then what's happening with the housing crisis in Australia, what's happening with the food shortages in Somalia, what's happening with the migrant takeover of Europe. There's just so much to fathom that it is starting to trickle in. And yes, we're not even in the mid stages, Vinny. We're in the very, very early stages right now of this, and it's just starting to crumble. The cookie's just starting to crumble from one side. We're nowhere near mid stage yet. I don't think I'll be alive when it reaches mid stage, unless we got competent, like you said earlier, competent people to come in that understand the situation and treat it like a business, and then actually fix these problems properly. I'm not calling for more governance, because we don't need more government. In fact, we need less. We just need to make sure our roads get fixed, our infrastructure is up to date, to make sure our hospitals are properly funded, make sure we have the proper doctors and everybody to supervise. That's what we need, right? We don't need to tell us what to eat, when to eat, what we should be listening to, where we should be listening to, what we should be wearing. We don't need any of that garbage. We just need more of us and to be left alone. We want to become more independent, right? So we are in the early stages of this. If things don't get fixed quick, it's going to be detrimental for my children's generation is already lost the game without even tying their shoes.
I do feel that very heavily weighs upon people, and I think because the full spectrum of dominance has impacted the life very directly of anybody who's become a truth broadcaster or a truth listener, they are carrying significant amount of hurt and pain and frustration and paranoia around with them all the time. And because of that cacophony of negative feelings that they possess that they can't necessarily solve, like, can you solve the economic crisis, Mike? No, you can't. Yeah, can I solve the medical crisis? No, I can't. So we're dealing with problems that we, on our own, can't actually solve. And because we're absorbing all this information, we forget that there is actually a cost to absorbing information, particularly about things that you can't necessarily change by yourself, and this requires so much extra work, and that brings on extra pressure, and then the stress levels go up, and then people, instead of biting the bullet and just going, okay, let's pull our work and let's do it because the alternative is enslavement and death, right? No, they get depressed, they become addicted to substances and poor behavioral patterns in their life that are unproductive in order to distract themselves from the horrible things that they know. Okay, this is what's happening to the truth movement, I think. I think there's just been such a cacophony of this perpetual crises that it's almost like your liver is sick, which produces apathy, right? There is a lack of care within the truth community because they've been so browbeaten and so beat down by such a spectrum of dominance that they are aware of for so long. That's why they say ignorance is bliss. It's not actually bliss. It just means like, oh, what's that like coming in and you're dead. Ignorance is death. Enlightenment is suffering, right? And people have all sorts of different kind of reactions to suffering. Some people it's very motivating. For some people it's very depressing. How do we weave our way through this world with this cacophony of scumbaggery that is constantly caracatering around our brains? What do you think, Mike? I mean, do you think people are going to make it through this, mentally speaking? You know, there's so many people in the truth movement committing suicide. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Are you saying in the truther movement, I think will never ever come out of this, and we will gradually talk ourselves through this, right? I think we will talk ourselves through this, Vinny, as we progress through life. But I'm going to tell you straight up, for me, I own a retail store in a small town with 2 stoplights, and people refuse to shop at my store because of my political points of views, my scientific or medical points of views. And I get pretty vulgar on Mike in the Night too, calling out a lot of these people and then recalling them out. And you go back to our 2010, 2012, 2014 videos about, hey, they're going to pull the trigger on a pandemic. Hey, they're going to shut things down. Hey, food, you can't be – I was wrong on the date. I said we won't be able to afford to buy food by 2020. That's a 2012 video, but I was wrong on the date. But the way things were progressing and following the playbook of these narcissist public sector animals, I kind of knew where they were going to steer it, where they were going to bring it, right? And I go back to some of those older videos and I read some of them comments, and people were just really, really screwing it hard, really giving me, saying some really mean things to me, right? And then fast forward 10 years later, everything we spoke about is pretty much happened. The date and the timing is a bit off, but everything that we spoke about, and I say, well, I said this 10 years ago, they don't even care. They poop on you harder. It's like you're trying to warn people for so many years. You go back and show them, hey, look, we were right about this. We were right about interest rates. We were right about being able to afford to pay your rent. We were right about a lot. But then they look back at us like we're evil, or we didn't do enough to warn people when we tried our best. Right? People refuse to shop at my store, and people refuse to support me locally because of my points of views and what I think, right? And it's hurt me very much, right? And I hope it doesn't spill over to my children and my wife. That's what I hope it doesn't happen like that. But there's nothing more. I can't erase what I said before because I was searching for the truth, right? And now here we are 10, 15 years later, and it's all here. right?
I had that realization myself. I was just like crying and saying that I failed. You know, I spent the bulk of my career trying to wake people up and try and save humanity, and I freaking failed. You know, and the weight of that failure is something that not only crushes me but everybody. You know, because we're all responsible for co-creating our reality, and we haven't created jack crap that can really be stood on and stand the test of time. Nothing that people can build on our bones when we die, so that a future will become bright as the shadow recedes. You know, nothing. So all the efforts that you've made mean nothing, and that's what it feels like sometimes because of this gargantuan overload of stressful world events. It's like, how familiar am I with the problems in my street, for example? Not very familiar. But that, I think that's maybe what the internet has done to us, and what online talk radio show hosts like us have done to people. They've become less concerned with the small things that are going on around them, because we're not necessarily concerned about, you know, we're concerned about the big issues, but we can't solve the big issues. We can only solve the small ones. Maybe we've been looking at it through a inverted prism this whole time.
Right.
Oh, Mike has frozen just a little bit. Have I frozen just a little bit? No, I have not. Okay, we'll wait for Mike to unfreeze in just a moment here, folks. And I wanted to check as well in the chat room here, guys, if anybody is in here. We got Kiwi Radio, and Kiwi Radio NZ says everything going fine. Oh, that's good. Thank you, Ralphie. Lovely to see you. At WCB99 on the Twitch as well, bro. You're awesome, man. You're so awesome. And who have we got in the Fushborg? Oh, we've got a couple of people watching. That's great. And there's the YouTube as well. Ashley Styles, Beach Baby. We don't have... Oh, that's another thing I was going to say, guys, is that we don't have... Oh, and Truth Freeze has just shown up. Our mods, Alan and DK, they're actually up here in Auckland. I was hanging out with them over the weekend, bro. And... Oh, yes, that's... Mike's had some disastrous technical issues. I suppose he'll rejoin us when he can. Anyway, our mods, DK and Amos, respectively, who are normally in the chat room of the YouTube keeping us going, are not there today. But why? Because they're on the way to the airport and they're going to get like a rental car and stuff like that. Amos is here on holiday, and I got to hang out with them over the weekend and meet my mods face to face for the very first time. It was great. We've got in terms of their physical appearance, you describe one as a Sasquatch and the other as a mixture of ZZ Top and Ron Weasley. That's ZZ Weasley to you. That would be DK's common appearance. You know, a bogan ZZ Weasley, of course. And it was so funny, man. It was so funny. Great guys to hang out with. And it was good to just, you know, see my crew in the show, and they love me and I love them, and we got to hang out, and it was just so good, right? And that was something that I thought was missing. And maybe it's something that's missing in all of our lives to a large degree in this truth movement here. All right, we've got Mike back.
Yeah, so, sorry about that. I don't know. My computer just kaput, died. Went offline. Can I add something to what I was saying? Sorry.
Yes, you can.
You know what breaks my heart even more, Vinny, is when you have all these new content creators that just showed up in the last couple of months or a year or two ago, and actually take our work, what we've said, our word salads, predictions, discussion pieces, our key phrases, or whatever coined terms, and then take it and run with it, get 500,000 subscribers, get partnered with these platforms, and then actually make some residual income through being on social media. I could barely make $800 a year off coffees, people sending me coffees, and I do Mike in the Night religiously with callers from across the Commonwealth since 2017. You know what I mean? And it's just very heartbreaking when that happens too, Vinny. I wanted to add to that too, where just other content creators are in it more for the money and taking what they can from others, or strip mining other content creators.
Oh, can I add to that as well? I had a discussion with somebody over the weekend about someone in their life who's allegedly a truther, right? And yet is completely dishonest and sort of threatening in their nature, and claims that everybody else is the problem when they are clearly the problem, right? And I said to her, just like I said with the spectrum of dominance that we're facing here, there is also a spectrum of humanity, right? Down one end of the spectrum is like gold people, like those amazing people who are just like so good, like in every way, and they're so lovely, and they're so caring, and they're so good at what they do. And down the other end, you got the exact opposite of them, the evil terror that lurks within mankind's genome has been unleashed in these particular individuals, and they have no care and no qualms about breaking any set of laws or moral standards in order to get what they want. That spectrum of people is what makes up humanity. There's all these people in the middle who are part of one side or the other to larger degrees or lesser degrees. That same spectrum exists in any organization you can go into, including the truth movement. There are really bad people in the truth movement, as well as really frickin' awesome ones, you know? And so that was what I learned as a young activist, is that you actually can't trust people in the truth movement. Not just carte blanche. They have to have some kind of a track record. They have to have behaviors that are consistent. Because some people are absolutely all over the place. They're dangerous to the movement. They're what the old term is a loose cannon. And we are getting made to look like fools.
Right.
Because of these people. And
yes,
they come out of the woodwork just as soon as, like, there is money and power in the truth movement, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, okay? And if you're wise and you're capable, you will be able to make content that gives you just enough to live on. All right? Just enough to live on. Not enough to be extravagant. Not enough to be rich or anything. But if you're good and you're decent, you might be able to survive whilst doing this for a living. You might. However, there is a number of other elements that can be brought to the game. Marketing, for example. Are you really good at marketing, manipulating people's attention and telling them what they want to hear and getting them to part with their money in order to create some kind of alluvial trust in you where the cliff face falls? Then you might be able to get yourself into a windfall, but it won't be through selling truth. No. Right. It'll be doing what we call the softly, softly, gently, gently truth. Where you're not really willing to say the things that need to be said because they're still, quote-unquote, controversial. Ignoring the fact that the word controversy means you're being confronted with a fact that goes against what you previously understood, and that you are now being given a choice of whether or not you can accept that fact, change what you're doing in your life with that information, or not. You see, people in the truth movement who are good keep telling you the truth, keep telling you the truth, keep telling you the truth, consistently. They're always there, they're always doing it, and they don't let up. And the other people, on the other hand, it's not like that. We're always telling you just a little bit of something. We're always telling you a little bit of something, you know, but never really giving you the whole story. Why? Because that helps you bring an audience. What do you mean, Vinny? I thought when people give you the whole story, it enhances your audience. No, it doesn't. It reduces your audience. Because when you give people the tools to understand things for themselves, they no longer require you to keep continuously informing them with a little bit of truth, a little bit of truth, a little bit of truth. You see? We're not in the control your mind business. We are in the freeing your mind business, and that is why we can't necessarily get wealthy, because once we have given people enough to free their mind, they no longer need us. Okay? This great society that we dream of, this thing that we wish would happen, this thing that's been evading our grasp our entire life, even if we got it, if the world's problems and government issues were solved tomorrow, if corruption and pedophilia and all of the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad things that happen on a daily basis just weren't happening anymore, that society would have no place for us. Okay? We'd be cast out like lepers, just like we have already. Because without the fight, without doing what's right, with an overwhelming force against us, we'd become dangerous. Okay? We would actually be dangerous to the new, profoundly peaceful order in society, because we've never known peace. And only when war comes again, the war for men's minds and hearts, would society suddenly deem us worthy of having a place in it again. That is the long, hard struggle of the scout.
You know, let me paraphrase that a bit. I coined a term a few years back. Now it's starting to happen. It's called CID. CID stands for Controlled Information Distribution, where people who are ushering in the truth now are allowed to say what we can't say, right? There's a lot of stuff that we can't say on these platforms that will – I have 21 YouTube suspensions, I know, okay? So I know controlled information distribution, because then I'll see a content creator saying, wait, this guy's talking about what I was saying 4 years ago, and I even made a video, Vinny, where our titles even match word for word. They're allowed to say it, but I can't. All I made was a video showing, hey, we were talking about this 4 years before. This guy, he's got 3 million views. This guy's channel showed up a year ago, but for some reason, he's allowed to say it. They took down my video showing basically what we were both saying, and they took me down for medical misinformation. I have a lawyer in Toronto, Ontario, that's looking at that, and he's like, that is so weird that they would do that to you. So he's looking at that, and he's trying to find case law to see how we could proceed to actually go after them for this. But it's controlled information distribution. Now, I've entered a gray area now in my career or whatnot, whatever you want to call it. It's not really a career. It's just my hobby. I've entered a gray area and calling out whoever is or whoever, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to say this on your show, that what I'm about to say does not necessarily reflect Vinny Eastwood in any way, shape, or form. It's just me saying this, okay? So I'm calling out some of these bigger players, and then that's why I'm constantly in the gray zone and unallowed to be out there. So I'll give you a great example. Elon Musk is fantastic, and a fantastic example. He was a Democrat for years. He kept his mouth shut. He got his billions in federal funding with SpaceX, Tesla. He got tons of government grants, tons of all kinds of good stuff for Elon Musk. Fantastic. But in order to get that stuff, he would have to keep his mouth shut. Now the pendulum swung back, and a couple of months ago, he's like going all over the world telling people what to do, how to say, what to say, and just shutting everybody down and telling them what to say. But he couldn't say that 10 years ago because he wouldn't have got that government funding. He was a Democrat. Now, fast forward till a few months ago, now he's a Republican. Now he's got what he needed, and he moves forward. So I call these people out all the time because it's like, wait, if this guy said something 10 years ago, we probably wouldn't be in half the mess we are in today, Vinny. But no, he waited, made his money, got his funding. Fast forward today, comes in and says, well, that wood shouldn't have not been by the heater, and that fire would have never happened. So he's playing Captain Obvious all over the world. And it's so blatant. So maybe call me jealous, or I don't know, but I'm just telling you what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that term that keeps getting used a lot is, oh, he's just butthurt about it. It's just like, yeah, right. Global totalitarianism taking over under the guise of your savior indicates my butthurtery. Is this is your grand observation? Is it? Okay. I wanted to do a show. We're not going to do it now, but the other time when Trumpty Dumpty got elected, I went to an old documentary of Alex Jones that said that the president changes, but the people within the cabinet still belong to all the same groups and clubs. Trilateral Commission, which was set up by Zbigniew Brzezinski, or the Council on Foreign Relations, set up by Brzezinski and Rockefeller. The Council of National Policy, which wants to bring in like a Christian Sharia law. The Freemasons, Old Boys School Network, the Military Intelligence, Central Intelligence Agency, NSA, that kind of thing. If people belong to these groups, and these clubs and things of that nature, if they were on Wall Street, for instance, all right, you know who's controlling the country, right? Right? Because every single cabinet member in Trump's original office belonged to one or more of those clubs, usually all of them simultaneously. Okay, and so I learned that 3 days after he announced his cabinet, because I did, what's called in the biz research. And it's very simple research. What's this person's name? Keyword Freemason. We got a hit. Okay, what's this person's name? Trilateral Commission. We got a hit. So we got a hit on basically every single one of his cabinet members. All right? That's not a coincidence. And when we look into his past and the money laundering that he was doing for the Jewish mafia, the Meyer Lansky mob of New York kind of thing, and anybody who knows about real estate in New York City says that you have to be involved with the mob in at least some way in order to do that kind of thing. And I'm like, okay, so a mob money launderer who has a globalist almost exclusively as part of his cabinet is going to save you all from the globalists, and now you don't have to do anything, okay? It's all being handled, guys. Look at all these announcements we've made. Look at all these things that sound really nice. Look at all this evidence of things that appear to be getting done. It's almost like they figured out that their pressure was building up and they needed to release that pressure in order to make people passively accept all the next stuff that is coming. They just needed a little bit of a reprieve so that people sit down, relax, eat popcorn, and trust the plan.
You know what it is, Vinny? Is what he's doing now is all he's doing is just bringing back the sanity. If he really wants to do something about this, Vinny, he would go after the people that put into law a lot of these draconian weird laws. He should go after them and put them in prison. And then he's got my attention. But all he's doing is bringing it back and stating there's only two genders. I'm like, we know that. So what? You're not telling us something we don't already know. You're just bringing back, okay, now there's two genders. Okay, now we're gonna focus on that. And then it's like, we know this, Vinny. We've known this since the time of Moses. But they're bringing this back to give the public a sense of gratification or satisfaction that normality is coming back. But then how far right is this going to swing? How far are they, now they're bringing back, they're closing the borders. Yeah, you're a country. You close your borders and you secure them to protect your citizens that pay taxes, right? It's like, we're doing this and we're doing, you're just bringing back what it's supposed to be. You're just bringing back rational, you're bringing back sanity. That's all you're doing, right? And everyone's seeing it as these big victories. It's like, let's start really focusing. But again, he's trying to do a thing or two, trying to tariff Canada. I'm in Canada. They want to tariff. They want to put tariffs on us for 25 points, right? And Canada deserves these tariffs because Canada's economy, like I said before to you, Vinny, multiple times, is built off real estate to sell to China and leave all the homes empty and create artificial shortages. And a lot of our gold mines, copper mines, lithium-ion mines most of them are Chinese-owned with no Canadian hires. So they didn't even hire Canadians to work there. That's how bad it's in farmland. Vinny, we could go for hours on this. But it's not – so Canada does deserve a good tariff or two because Canada deserves this because the deregulation of our governance here has gone the way of your country. New Zealand was the same thing. It's the same thing when it comes to real estate is unaffordable in your country, but not because it's because you were bought out of your own market through foreign intervention. Same thing with Australia. Same thing with Ireland. And same thing with the UK, the blue states of America. I believe that Canada does deserve these, and in Canada to become the 51st state, if you want to ask me that. Yes, I lived in both countries, and I know that if Canada became the 51st state, it would make perfect sense. Because then we could get rid of the crown land, we could get rid of all the BS that goes with it, and all the bureaucracy and all the red tape, and we could follow the American Constitution. That makes perfect sense by the Founding Fathers, by the people, for the people. That's just me. I believe in gun rights. I believe everyone should own 5-6 guns. I believe that the people should have the right to defend their property. Here where I live, if someone breaks in and I stop them and they get hurt, I go to jail. I go to jail. So...
Yeah, and that is why, ladies and gentlemen, investing in a wood chipper is, if there's no body, there's no crime. Okay, now, we were talking about the element of kind of like hopelessness that people are feeling, and sort of the coping skills that they're doing things. And what people do in a crisis, generally speaking, is they try to find somebody who's going to protect them, somebody who's going to provide for them. Whether or not they're morally aligned with them whatsoever is completely irrelevant. All right, if you're in a war zone and the person who's leading your group is a freaking killer, all right, you're going to want that person leading your group because it's a friggin' war zone. All right, and now we're dealing with an element where we're trying to go to war against an overwhelming enemy, against overwhelming odds, ostensibly. Certainty of death, small chance of success. What are we waiting for? But who is leading us? All right, I was struck by a question this morning, just before I called you, Mike, is that who are the leaders of the truth movement now? Like they seem to have very successfully decapitated the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5 and number 6 slots, I think. Basically, the top 6 truther broadcasters from every Western nation got basically their heads completely cut off during this whole lapse of purging and censorship. And all these new heads have grown, and I think not a single one of them came and talked to and sought mentorship from the people that they were ostensibly replacing, and so quickly without having to do the groundwork themselves that they might not understand the responsibility of the position that they hold.
Well, U.S. aid is playing a big part, and U.S. aid has been funding a lot of these new influencers that just showed up out of nowhere with these 500,000 or a couple of million viewers and followers. U.S. aid is now on the hook for funding several thousand Canadian influencers. Several thousand. And you go to their channels, they're all anti-Trudeau and pro-Pierre Poilievre. And it's the same pattern. Showed up a couple of years ago, and they're following a specific guideline, a specific narrative. And USAID's on the hook for even funding influencers in Nicaragua and Colombia and all over the world. USAID is trying to reshape, and now that they're exposing this USAID and where it's funding and who it's funding, a lot of these influencers will drop these mics, Vinny, because if they don't get paid, they ain't speaking, right?
Yeah. I would love the idea of actually getting paid good money to spread the truth. I mean, I do get paid. Yes, I do. And I am very grateful for every cent that comes in because I need it, just a basic survival, I was talking with Rob, who runs the programming here on Ground Zero Radio. And he said that, look, Vinny, if these other people who are broadcasting right now don't learn how to tighten their belts and live within their means, they aren't going to survive what's coming, Doing it as cheaply as you possibly can, as effectively as you possibly can. I mean, we don't have a war machine, guys. We are guerrilla warfare media spokespeople, ostensibly. Okay, we come in, we do run and gun and then disappear into the brush. But we don't have a standing army of truthers to go out there. A solid 1 million people who will just stand somewhere and just not frickin' move for a month or something of that nature. There's no organization. There's no leadership. Okay, and that's what's problematic deeply, because if you're facing an overarching threat that does have organization, that does have leadership, unless you have a corresponding plan for your group to survive, let alone thrive, let alone defeat the enemy. We've got no plan, no apparatus, and you're going to defeat these guys who have trillion-dollar military budgets, trillion-dollar surveillance budgets, trillion-dollar psych warfare budgets. Okay? They're going to mess with your head, mess with your food supply, mess with your power and your communication, and mess with your society for decades before you even realize that you're being messed with, and by the time you frickin' figure it out, they've already got you.
Yep. And that's the whole plan. It's a whole divide and conquer strategy. And I think what they're trying to unleash, or what their wet dream would be, is to have us fight and quarrel amongst each other. Right? I sent out a bunch of, a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to get some fresh guests on Mike in the Night. And not a single influencer or anybody ever replied to me. And I'm like, look, I've been here since, I've been doing this since 2017. We're on episode 500. We just did 593 last night, and we do it once a week. And they're not interested. Nobody's interested. You know, it's almost like a lot of these people, if they're doing well, they want to keep it for themselves, and they don't want to get others out there or bring up others to support. You know what I'm saying, Vinny? Like, they just want to keep it to themselves, and this is why the truther movement has been, or they call so-called truther movement, is severely unbalanced, and like you said, without the proper ranking or support or infrastructure in place, we're just sitting ducks. You know, we're just individually.
That was another point that I made to somebody before. Okay. Why are you a truther? Well, somebody in a position of authority really traumatized me, so I don't trust authority or groups and organizations anymore. Oh, awesome. Do you want to join my group or organization and go under my authority? It's right. I mean, herding cats, that's easy. Herding truthers, you got it, Dad.
I'm glad you got a good chuckle out of that one. Yeah, it's true, but it's true. And that's where we're at right now. I believe in controlled information distribution is real. I believe that social media or the influencers, like even at the top with Joe Rogan, 24 hours before the U.S. Election, gets the call and then endorses Donald Trump because he was told to, right? And then a week ago, he said, "Oh, I don't take sides." It's like, whoa, what's going on here? So you see, they are being manipulated into where to go, who to endorse, what to do. And then I rehashed a Mike of the Night from 2023, early 2023, where I said, watch who endorses Trump and watch who he surrounds himself with, because that's the big key. That's the big figure. That's the big Monty right there. And like you said earlier, it's his previous cabinet who he surrounded himself with. Now it looks like he's kind of a little bit, but he's got this Elon Musk is just all over the place, and there's no, I don't know. I'm just giving him an office in the White House, and it's almost like a subsidiary to Bill Gates. But the problem with Bill Gates is a wolf in sheep clothing. All right, so anyone doesn't, hope they see Bill Gates. No one takes him seriously, Vinny. Nobody cares. Oh, Bill Gates is saying this. Nobody cares, right? But when Elon Musk says something, a lot of people perk up and listen to what Musk is saying, because he's gained their approval, right? So and Americans are so desperate for bringing back the sanity that they'll do anything, right? So this is where we got to be really careful. This fine line we're going through right now, right?
It's you've mentioned this before a number of times about attempting to bring back sanity. What if there's something else going on here? I'm just like, my brains are sort of like tingling right now. I'm like, what is that? Is that pericarditis? No, it might be an aortic infarction. But the whole idea of bringing back sanity to an insane world, I'm just thinking, man, wouldn't people just love a messianic figure? to save their ass and require no work from them whatsoever to participate in the process? Wouldn't that, as long as something appears to be being done, then there's no necessary reason to freak out and protest in the streets or turn violent or anything like that. It's I don't know why people believe that somebody in a position of authority and power that is controlled by Jewish bankers is going to, assist in their interests. It just doesn't make any kind of sense to me, and I don't know why that is. Am I eternally suspicious? Do I know too much? And what was his name? Leonard Coldwell. He told me that every hope is good, even false hope. So, I mean, I've got hope in Trump just on that basis alone. Mm-hmm. Like, even though I know 99% that he's an asset of the people who run the world and want to usher in a new thing and trigger civil war in between people by not negotiating, not communicating, and subsequently making their various political herds not communicate anymore. I remember seeing a graph where almost all the Democrats used to talk to all the Republicans back in the day before Trump, and now almost none of them talk together, right? Mm-hmm. And what does it say in Star Wars? A loss of communications can mean only one thing: invasion.
Yep, invasion. Now, let me ask you a question, Vinny. How far right do you think this is going to swing back? I'm all for bringing back the sanity. I'm all for the two genders. I'm all for the 10 Commandments. Hey, I'm a Roman Catholic. I'm all for the conservative way of life and preserving our way and our family, the whole 9 yards, okay? But how far do you think this is going to go right? How far right do you think this pendulum will swing back now that the powers that be have total control now? What do you think? What do you think, buddy?
Well, the question is whether or not it's actually going to swing right at all, because what has appeared to happen is that the Democrats are far left and the Republicans are left, right? So that's basically it. You've got socialism or socialism light, which is sort of like a diet socialism. Sort of like a low-carb socialism. Sort of like I can't believe it's not socialism. Light beer. Yes. And as a result, people are going to be given what appear to be choices, but via the Delphi technique, those choices all lead to the same goal eventually. Right. And so if you look at the United States House of Congress and where the Speaker of the House speaks, on either side of that platform are two fasci. What are fasci? They are bundles of sticks with an axe in the middle. What fasci? That sounds like a very familiar word. Yes! It should frickin' have some kind of familiarity. It's called fascism, okay? People of the United States, all right? That is the symbol on either side of the Speaker of the House of Representatives in the United States. You are a fascist country, and fascists are socialists, okay? So do you want communist socialism, okay, or fascist socialism? The end result is the same. And so the endless quiver and quabble between people who are talking about are they too right? Are they far right? Are they far left? It just doesn't matter. If a bird that has a penchant for carrion is coming and eating you before you're dead, it doesn't matter which wing he uses to cast himself aloft in order to defend and descend upon your blood-curdling, screaming corpse, okay? It's seriously, it doesn't matter. It's the same freaking vulture that is picking your bones clean, and a political solution to this problem is not, I think, physically possible. An entire rework and things of that nature. I mean, the Founding Fathers had a great freaking idea, and Andrew Jackson died having accomplished the fruition of that idea, to have a nation free from the control of foreign banks creating currency out of nothing. Period. Right? It all starts there. And if that mechanism is no longer there, you surprisingly, man, this country doesn't seem remarkably less fascist. Yes, it does seem remarkably less communist too. It's almost like the individual has rights and isn't a slave serf, for instance. All right? That's why the intro of the show says, welcome, slaves of the global plantation, because we are Okay? We are slaves to bankers. End of story. That started in 1913 with the Federal Reserve Act quite literally cutting the throat out of American republicanism. At that point, there were no Democrats, there were no Republicans, there were only slaves to the bankers. Until those bankers are no longer enslaving us, it matters not what our political quabble is, because as they say, give me control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who writes its laws.
Yes, Andrew Jackson, his entire administration was to kill the bank, was to kill foreign entities on American soil. He dedicated his entire administration to removing that. There's a couple of images you can find online with all these snakes, snake heads going to one body, and he's severing them with a sword. And Old Hickory, that was his nickname, Old Hickory on his deathbed believed that he saved the America and America for what it was to be, right? He said that on his deathbed. And then you had Woodrow Wilson come in and sign in the Federal Reserve Act, like you said, and he signed in the Income Tax Act, right? And on his deathbed, he said, I have forever sold out the American people to the banks or the banking cartels. He said that on his deathbed. And he knew what he was doing. So it wasn't like he was doing this because he was misinformed. He knew he was dropping the guillotine on the American public. And ever since then, people are being taxed on their labor, which I think is illegal, taxing them on property they own. And it's been this conundrum of just more and more and more, and seeing how far they can get away with certain things, how many layers of government they could add on, how much public service that we're going to pay a bunch of people that are really doing nothing to service us. And this is where we're at now. They're going as far as they can take it. And now everything's going bankrupt. And this is all, again, in the end, by design. They want to bankrupt everything. They want to start bringing in these digital currencies, digital IDs. They want to enslave us back to our 2017 Mike of the Nights. Digital prison, digital world, digital mind, digital soul.
They're creating a god, ostensibly, an artificially intelligent god computer, all right? What is God? God is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, everywhere, all the time, sees everything all the time, and is completely powerful with everything, right? That's basically it. That's what they want to do. They want to create a god. So if that's the plan, and I think David Icke really enlightened me as to this as well, in terms of, you know, when you're thinking about something, but then somebody else just gives you the words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was like that. Once you know what the plan is and look at it through that lens, you stop having those, yeah, I see truthers out there still, you know, people have been awake for 10 years, 20 years or something like that, or claim to be, just going, I just don't know why they're doing it, Vinny. Oh, it just doesn't make any sense. Oh, it's just crazy. No, you do know why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
No, it does make sense. And no, it's not that crazy, okay? These people are evil. They're doing it because they can, and they can't frickin' help themselves. Because if they did, at any point, really let up the scam, like actually just go like, okay, guys, we're going to admit, really, and broadcast it publicly 1,000 times a day across 1,000 different media, so you couldn't go anywhere without hearing the truth about us and what we've done to humanity, what we've done to your children since perhaps even the beginning of time, all right? If you tell people that, these people know that a very angry mob will assemble, and that mob won't disassemble until their heads are disembodied. Okay? They know what they're risking. Right. And they're doing it anyway. Okay? What are we risking? Everything that we've got is already at risk. And we are not as willing to fight tooth and nail as our enemies are. And that's why we are losing.
Vinny, we haven't gotten there yet because It's from this old Fast and Furious, first Fast and Furious 5 movie. There was a very beautiful quote that was said in that movie. And he basically said, older movie from 2005, he said, when you dominate people with violence, lies, deceit, whatnot, and they have nothing to lose, what do they have left? They fight back. And that quote, I've taken that quote from that movie and I've redistributed that quote everywhere, because there will come a time where people will have nothing to lose anymore, Vinny. So what do they got left, right? They just fight back. And this man right here, Andrew Jackson here on the $20 US bill here, Andrew Jackson said it the best. Governments, people should not fear their governments, but governments should fear their people.
That's actually a Jefferson quote. Indeed, I have a T-shirt on my wall.
So is that Thomas Jefferson? I thought it was Andrew Jackson that said that. I'm sorry.
Andrew Jackson, this is another important point that I think maybe we're trying to get around to the point that there's some kind of hope or whatever, right? Now, apparently David Icke has had, according to somebody who said somebody does something, blah, 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 XMI5 or MI6, something, rather, rumor mill, right? That there has been a number of attempts on his life, but they all failed. And David didn't even know that they happened because they failed so spectacularly that it failed to even scare him or even take his notice. And he says that to believe he's being protected. Now, before people go, oh, that sounds all woo-woo, David Icke and reptilians and stuff like that, I take it back to Andrew Jackson, who, an assassin with 2 flintlock single-shot pistols, came up to him in broad daylight, pointed the first pistol at him, fired, and it misfired. Pointed the second pistol at him, fired, and it misfired.
Mm-hmm.
They later checked these weapons, and they were perfect. Should have fired. The only thing that this guy was doing was trying to kill the bank. And there are forces in this world, not just that of man and woman, that protect those who protect others. Right?
Right.
Every now and again, and this happened actually very recently, Mike, I needed to replace my windscreen for my car, and I needed the money within 72 hours. It was like nearly 1,000 New Zealand dollars I needed to raise. And exactly the amount that I needed was in my account within 45 minutes of me actually needing that money and that bill to be paid. Right? So that was what was interesting, guys, and we've unfortunately lost Mike in the night again. He'll be reassembling in an Avenger-type fashion momentarily. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much for all of you guys who donated and helping to support the show, because, yeah, literally, it wouldn't be happening without you guys. And I'm so grateful to each and every one of you, because you're all so freaking awesome. All right? We've got someone who I was going to call Tanya Bauer, but I believe she's Australian, which means it's pronounced Tanya. And she goes, yeah, she's going to comment very, very soon. I'll go, yeah, it is Tanya. And there's so many wonderful, cool people around, man. Like, seriously. You guys don't actually realize maybe how cool you are, how awesome you are. Okay, but I do, because I've met you, right? And we spend so much time isolated and alone that sometimes it's very, very difficult to be appreciated, to even feel appreciated, to feel like we've got some kind of self-worth, until we're around a bunch of other people who actually recognize what worth in terms of a person is, right? Man, we need to have some truther clubs. Everybody's got to have a truther club on their street or something like that. Like, seriously, the isolation. If you're, for instance, in a conversation with somebody, you know how people give off these subtle social cues and things of that nature that let you know what you should be saying, what you shouldn't be saying, and so on and so forth. Because you're a truther, those things don't care. You don't care about those things, all right? Most people do, even other truthers, There's a way of having a conversation with somebody that doesn't annoy them, where you don't go off and repeat yourself and so on and so forth. And it's like, again, as I mentioned, the muscle atrophying. Okay, our ability to socialize and communicate with other people during that lockdown plus that I was under, it completely atrophied. I couldn't talk to people. I had no idea how. And I think the same happened to all of us. So, yeah, get together in real life with the people in your street and your truth communities and things like that, man. Like, seriously, otherwise you're going to go nuts, and your being nuts isn't going to go any better. All right, here we go. Here's Mike back. I hope so. Let's give him a call back, eh? Bing, bing. And we're just about to wrap up the show, so this may be a little bit premature. We'll see if he picks him up. There we go. There's the mic. In the night.
They don't want me here tonight. They don't want me on this show. I'm telling you, something's going on, because I just streamed a 4-hour Mike in the Night last night, and we had not a single hiccup, an issue with nothing, with 50 windows open. And I can't even run my Skype, just the Skype.
That's freaking unbelievable, bro.
I've never experienced anything like this in my life, but that's where we're at right now.
Anyway, we're at the end of the show. And I would like to thank you so much for giving me your time out of your busy schedule. I know you got kids to take care of and whatnot, bro. So
anytime.
Yeah. And isn't he lovely, guys? You know, it's just like, it's so good to actually have somebody who has eloquence in their speech, who has knowledge and history in their mind, who has honor and decency and integrity on the show, to contrast with myself, of course. So thank you very much, Mike, for coming on here with us. And one last thing for people: where can people find your work and support you?
Mike Martins, MikeMartins. Don't Google it, because I don't come up. You have to go on YouTube. You could find me. You could find me on Facebook. You could find me on Instagram. I am banned on Twitter. Everyone asks for my Twitter handle, but I am banned on Twitter permanently. And what else? And so you could find me on those. I'm on Rumble, and we do stream Mike in the Night every Saturday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time. And we're going into episode 594.
594. It's like, you know, that scene in Shawshank Redemption when Morgan Freeman comes out after he just gets his parole rejection again. He goes, 30 years. Jesus, when you say it like that. It's like, that's what like every decade in a truther's life is like being in another 10 years of prison.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we're just getting institutionalized, I think, you know, that kind of degree. It's tough for people out there to survive. And I realize, you know, why people listen to my show. It's because they need levity. You know, they need somebody to make light. They need somebody to appear like it's cool. It's okay to be abnormal. It's okay to know crazy things that are real. Right? It's okay, guys. And you're going to be all right. It's not the end of the world, okay? And it helps if you are going through a horrible, miserable time in your life to see something that's much, much worse in order to get you to appreciate what you have. What is much, much worse than your horrible, miserable life? Guaranteed. It's Vinny's jokes. So thanks, Mike, for coming on the show tonight. And we will see you again next time.
Thank you. God bless you.
Cheers, brother. Okay, that was Mike in the Night, ladies and gentlemen, the comic accurate Canadian Wolverine. And we have, of course, another little interesting tidbit to share with you, if we can be so kind. What is it? What is it, he says? Ah, yes. We have donations. The people who are donating to support the show and all of that kind of good business. We'd love you to become a Patreon, like a Hyro and Amos. And because we had to start that up from scratch again, right? This is the thing, guys. When you get deplatformed, you have to start all over again. There's a lot of people who don't even know that I'm still doing a show. Like years and years after being deplatformed, they haven't realized that I've been broadcasting the whole time. So I want you to help me. You can either do one or more of these tasks. Number one, if you're listening live right now, give this video a like. You see that little thumbs up button and the like that you have? Can you give it a click? Thank you. That's very nice. If you like it even better than that, you might be able to subscribe to the channel. Is that possible? There's a little red subscribe button right there. Can you grab that? Okay, that's lovely. If you want to go and do something really special, what would be lovely is help to actually expand the audience by sharing the broadcast and share it with a little comment. How did the show make you feel today? All right. And share it on your feeds or email it to somebody. Even sharing it to one person really helps the channel. You don't believe how much it does. And lastly, of course, is that financial contribution. This is a war, ladies and gentlemen, and wars are not won without funding. And I have been fighting this war for my entire adult life. Since the age of 24, I have been full-time truthing, trying to save humanity from the ruthless, criminal, sociopathic scumbaggery that besets it, and have been doing remarkably well up until having my neck cut in a figurative sense by social media banning and subsequently people stealing the audience and blacklisting me, as the person who basically founded the New Zealand online alternative media truth movement kind of vision and pioneered it for the first time. Suddenly, I'm chopped liver, and they don't care. And that's why I need your guys' help as well, because you do care. You are here, and I can't actually describe in words, and you know how good I am with words, how much I appreciate that, guys. Like, seriously. The other day when Amos and DK were here, I practically burst into tears because I was just so grateful for all their help and all the things that they do for me and for the show, and doing their own work for humanity. And the fact that people like that know me and care about me and help me was really overwhelming. So guys, just thank you very much for listening to the Vinny Eastwood Show. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you so much for sharing it around and telling people about the good nougaty funness that is Vinny's jokes. You know you're awesome. Okay, just stop lying to yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back. Right? Yes, I'm awesome. I'm freaking awesome. Yes, you are. Okay, it's not a sarcastic thing. All right, there's so many friggin' idiots out there who are just boring. All right, and they don't have any interesting stories to tell, and they don't really know anything of note. Right? You're not one of them. Thank God for that. Thanks, guys. We'll see you again sometime at the VinnyEastwoodShow.com.
Gentlemen, I brought you here to discuss the Eastwood problem. It may be necessary to penetrate the Vinny Eastwood Show. The Vinny Eastwood Show. Yeah, that's what I said.
Well, I've been working on a new Vinny scene. I think that might be the kind of penetration we need.
The Vinny Eastwood Show. Sundays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Live on Ground Zero Radio.